Hey guys, it's Bear. It is Friday, December 25th. It's Christmas. Merry Christmas. And it's like 11:30 at night. I've been trying to do a video for like half an hour and it keeps getting messed up. So this is the last version of this video I'm going to do, and if I end up not making a whole bunch of sense, so be it. Also, I have to apologize because I have I have house guests that are trying to get to bed, and they don't necessarily know that I do these videos, so I don't want to just be sitting in my room kind of talking to myself, and I don't want them overhearing my video, so I'm talking pretty quietly. So you may have to turn your volume up, I'm sorry. But anyway, getting to the point, this is Life of T-Men, and this week's topic is being outed. So, when you're trans, you have a couple different versions of being in the closet and being out. So you have pre-transition. That's when you are still, people are still referring to you by your birth name and referring to you as your birth gender with, pronouns and everything like that. And most of the time that means that you are still kind of considering whether or not to come out, whether or not to transition. It's a very difficult time in your life, and so not a lot of people tend to know that you're going through that. You tell very close friends and stuff. So the chance of them outing you during that phase is pretty low, so I don't really think that that's what this video is really intending to get at. I think it's intending to get at the other end of the kind of in-out spectrum, and I'll get to that in a second. So you go through that period, of debate, and it's awkward, and it's very difficult, it's very painful. And then you come out and you transition, and that can mean social, legal, medical, but either which way, when you transition, people will transition with you, and they have to update what they're calling you and how they're referring to you to other people. And so then you get to the other end of things, where you have transitioned and people have updated that stuff. It takes a while, it's definitely a process, but it is there, it does exist, and at the very least, you're going to get to a point, if you're doing medical changes, where strangers tend to see you a different way, and that's what we call passing, and that makes it possible to live what we call stealth. Stealth is where you don't acknowledge your trans status. You just live as your authentic self, your preferred gender, so in my case male, so in my case that means that I just live as male, and I don't go around, I don't need to go around telling people I'm trans, that becomes a matter of telling people if and when I need to tell people. It can be pertinent information, if you're pursuing a relationship, if you're pursuing something medical, and it can be something that you just choose to tell people, for whatever reason, or because you just want to. But when you live stealth, it's really like you don't tell people. And either which way, if I choose for somebody else to know, it's my choice. So if somebody that I know, who knows, tells somebody else, that's what we mean by being outed. And it's just something that's really kind of lousy to do to somebody, whether or not I'm stealth, whether or not I'm open about my trans identity, it's not your information to share, it's my information to share. And so I've had that happen a couple of times where somebody, has told somebody else, oh, yeah, Bear's trans, he transitioned, whatever ago, and that other person comes up to me and says something, and it's like a slap in the face. It's really, really weird, because you didn't know that person knew. It's not pertinent for them to know, and it's not necessarily a conversation that I want to have with just everybody, So that's what we mean when we say being outed. Again, not everybody has the opportunity to live stealth, and so it's kind of like a bit of a privilege, you know, if you want to talk about privilege. There definitely is like passing privilege, and so it's something that I appreciate that I'm able to do. I'm able to pass. I'm able to live stealth if I wanted to, but I don't want to, and I've talked about that in a different video on this channel. But even though I don't want to live stealth, or at least 100% stealth, it's still my information to share with somebody. It's something that I have the power to choose to tell people or not. So it's not something that's anybody else's right to give that information away. It's very personal, private information about myself. It's something that's sometimes very painful to talk about. It's a process that was very painful and difficult to go through, and it's definitely not done yet. You know, like every time I think I'm done transitioning, something else sort of reminds me that no, you're not. You're not just like done transitioning. And I don't know if that's ever a place that I'll get to where I'm actually done transitioning, or whether, you know, my trans status just doesn't matter anymore. So either which way you look at it, it's part of my identity. It's part of my personal information, and it's something that I get to choose whether to share with people or not. It's not anybody else's place to say anything about it, you know. So that's my feelings on it. And yeah, that's what being outed means, and that's how it feels. It goes hand in hand with misgendering somebody. You know, it's a crappy thing to have done to you, because again, it's my right to tell somebody. It takes the power away from you, you know. It feels just as bad to be outed as it does to be misgendered, and in fact, sometimes misgendering somebody actually outs them, and so they really are on par with each other. They're just both really bad things to do to a trans person. So be careful, you know. As my advice to trans allies that I know watch this stuff, be careful, you know, how flippant you are with somebody's identity and whether or not you're going to talk about their trans status. Just refer to them, to other people, as their preferred name and pronouns, you know. And as a trans person, you know, definitely own that. You know, that would be my advice to other trans people is don't be afraid to tell your friends, like, hey, you know, it's my information to share. And if somebody else has a question about it and they ask you, you know, come and ask me about it. You know, don't necessarily tell them to come to me and ask me about it. But before you tell anybody anything about me personally, like, come and touch base with me, you know, find out if that's okay. Because yeah, it's something very, very personal, and it can be something that's very, very painful to people. So that's my thoughts on being outed. Thanks for listening, you guys. Merry Christmas, and I'll see you next week.